What's up, ladies and gents? More good news on the balance front. 8.0.3 is being released, and the whole goal of this hotfix is to fix the issues that we have surrounding fighter aircraft. So these fixes are probably going to help destroyers the most out of every single ship in the game, but that's good because the destroyers were the ones that have been hurting the most from the carrier rework. So I'm just going to walk you through the main things that are getting patched and give you my thoughts on them and how I think that's going to affect gameplay, so let's get to work. Wargaming says, due to the good maneuverability and precise aiming even when changing direction of attack aircraft are excessively effective against destroyers. The latter have almost no opportunities for counterplay, even when active maneuvering. Given the high speed, attacked aircraft successfully repel destroyers from control points and in the early stages of battle force them to keep close to allies, so as not to suffer from airborne attack. Taking into account the above factors, we have reduced the effectiveness of attack aircraft against maneuvering destroyers, but at the same time preserve the main features of the planes. These changes will apply to attack aircraft of all CVs. And this is good. This is needed to help destroyers. I think out of everything, we've identified that this is the biggest issue right now with the carrier rework. The destroyer population have been decimated. Destroyer players are not very happy because they really can't do anything, especially if there's very few destroyers in around. Once an aircraft latches onto you, if they decide they want to keep on you, there's really nothing you can do as a destroyer player, and it really does make it miserable for DDs. So good on Wargaming for fixing this. So what are some of the fixes? Increased preparation time for the attack, which will not allow instant attack on destroyers. Change the parameters of aiming. Now planes get a large aim penalty when changing their direction during an attack and will not be able to accurately shoot rockets when maneuvering. Okay, these two things are good. Again, helps destroyers. It makes rockets more useful against cruisers and battleships. But the downside to this is I think the fighters are going to suffer against anti-aircraft guns on attack runs, especially if you're forcing them to go up against cruisers and battleships more often. So really, this kind of makes having fighters in the game a moot point. And I know a lot of you said, why are there even fighters? What's the point of them? And I think we're slowly getting to that kind of pivot point. What are the point of them if we're going to nerf them this much? Continuing on, maneuverability during the preparation for the attack and during the attack run is reduced, which will not allow attack aircraft to easily aim at a maneuvering destroyer if the approach of the attack was originally on the wrong vector. So this is like torpedo bombers and dive bombers, so it makes sense. If you start your attack on the wrong path and you want to shift mid-flight, it's going to be kind of slow, you're going to feel laggy, you're not going to be able to do it very quickly. But fighter aircraft are nimble aircraft with dumbfire rockets. I get it's a little tougher with torpedo bombers and dive bombers, and personally I want to help destroyers, but really these changes, again, are making the point of having these fighter aircraft in the game a moot point if you're using them to attack ships. And onward. Thus the destroyer, which actively maneuvers and takes into account in advance the attack vector of the squadron, will be able to successfully dodge the attack. The interaction of the attack aircraft with ships that do not change their course or due to their characteristics cannot do it quickly enough will remain at the same level. Okay, good again. This helps destroyers. But, again, this hurts fighter craft against all other ships. So, are you going to increase the fire percentage chance to give kind of that risk-reward payoff? Are you going to increase the armor on these aircraft? I don't know. Again, what's the point of them? Visibility of all ships from the air is reduced by 20%. This will reduce the reconnaissance potential of CVs at the start of the battle and help destroyers to remain undetected for a longer period, provided that their AA is turned off with the help of the P key. Okay, this makes sense again. Fighters have ridiculous speed, faster than all other aircraft. But again, and I know I'm sorry to sound like a broken record, why bother having fighter aircraft with the other nerfs that are being added to this one? To improve the efficiency of the fighter consumable, we changed its settings. Now fighters quickly begin pursuing enemy squadrons in the area of influence. So now we're talking about the anti-aircraft capabilities on ships, and we're talking about the fighter consumable. This was one of the large gripes of players, in that fighters were useless. I kind of viewed them as a second line of defense, the first being anti-air. AA on CVs is already ridiculously powerful. Personally, I don't really know that stronger fighters are needed to protect CVs even more when another CV can't even get a good strike off of the enemy CV. Also increase cruising speed, increase the number of aircraft called by consumable on the squadron from 2, 3, 4 to 3, 5, 7 respectively. Again, we're strengthening something that makes CVs pretty much invulnerable to enemy CV attacks. is this really the route we want to go? We've also significantly reduced the hit points of fighters, which will emphasize their weakness against ships and low efficiency as an intelligence tool. In addition, the radius of patrolling fighters for squadrons has changed with tier progression. At tier 6, it has been reduced from 2.5 kilometers, tier 8, unchanged, and at tier 10, it's now 3.5 kilometers. This answers what I was saying earlier. What are we going to do about these fighters that are now less powerful against destroyers, forcing you to use them against battleships and cruisers, which have stronger AA? Well, you have even less hit points now, so you're going to get mowed down and destroyed even quicker, so why even use fighters in the first place if you really can't do anything with them? Why have fighters in the game? And this is the going theme here. Why have fighters in the game at this point? Alright, we're moving on now to some other changes that are coming with this hotfix. These are actual carrier related. Due to the excessive efficiency on account to the large number of torpedoes and their attack flight, the attacking potential of Midway's torpedo bombers is reduced. Their torpedoes have been replaced with weaker ones. The maximum damage is now 4,233 instead of 5,367, and the chance of flooding is reduced. Other parameters remain unchanged. And this is what disappoints me the most. I love the Midway. I think the Midway was fairly balanced. But now, you're nerfing it significantly. I don't understand why they would want to nerf the flood percentage chance on the Midway. It was abysmal to begin with. 23 torpedoes, you'll be lucky if you get 3 or 4 floods. And those floods are going to get instantly repaired. The other issue we have right now is that flooding is getting nerfed. You now have the 2-compartment flooding, which means flood damage is not going to be as significant as it was before. So we're getting a double nerf bat on the Midway right here. One for the flooding, one for the torps. I don't like that. I'm not happy about that. But we'll have to see how it plays out. A bunch of changes coming in the Enterprise. Bombers in all respects have become similar to the SB-2C Helldiver bombers found on aircraft carrier Lexington, but they still carry AP bombs. This change will increase the survivability of the squadron. That's good. All bombers need increased survivability. All bombers have issues. You need to start the attack runs almost on top of a ship, which means you don't get the decreased damage that torpedo bombers get, because you got to get closer, and as you're getting closer, you're getting torn apart, and that's why Royal Navy bombers are so strong. You can start your attack runs much further out and get that protection. Reduced torpedo arming time. The torpedo aiming is now similar to the TVF Avenger torpedo bombers of the aircraft carrier Lexington. Previously, the torpedo aiming reticle was tightened slowly, but the penalty for maneuvering was lower. Now the aiming will be faster, but the penalty for maneuvering will be higher. Thus, when it's the right time to attack, the torpedo bombers will be able to drop their torpedoes more quickly and accurately. Also, replenishment of attack aircraft on the deck has been accelerated, allowing for faster compensation for the loss of aircraft in the battle. And I don't know if they're just talking about fighter aircraft or all attack aircraft. A little clarity there would be nice, but it's all good. Other changes have to do with fix for the incorrect cooldown for consumable defensive AA Fire 2 on destroyers. Now it's lower than the defensive AA Fire 1. Reduce the size of bomber squadrons for British aircraft carriers and increase fall time of the bombs. Due to the specifics of dropping bombs, British aircraft were too effective compared to other bombers. These changes will allow them to retain their features, but will lead to a more balanced damage output. Yes, I agree completely. Royal Navy bombers were a tad strong with their carpet bombing. And again, they're able to start their attack runs from further out, which means that they're protected. They have decreased AA damage. The other bombers do not have this ability. And really the rest of this stuff is just kind of boring. We don't really care about it. There's only 3 things. One of them is Huang He, and we really don't care about that ship. So there you have it. These are the hotfixes for 8.0.3. We continue to balance aircraft carriers, and this big hotfix right now is going to help destroyers the most out of everything, which we can all agree destroyers needed this help the most. So it'll be interesting to see as the week goes on, and really the weeks, how this affects the gameplay. It'd be nice to see the destroyer population come back a little bit based on these changes. It's important that we don't lose too much of one type of ship in the game. And destroyers play a vital role in the game, and I think in a way they've been neutered because of the aircraft carriers and the ability to just do those devastating rocket attacks on destroyers. It kind of worked as a double-edged sword, because if we had kept large amounts of destroyers in the game, those attacks would have been mitigated because it'd be focused just on one destroyer, and the other destroyers would be allowed to go about the map and do their business. But when you only have 1 or 2 destroyers in the game, and you've got 2 aircraft carriers in the game, both those destroyers can be harassed and spotted unrelentlessly. So these changes are good. I think they're another step in the right direction. We continue to fine-tune. We're getting closer to where we need to be. And Wargaming's being really receptive to what everyone's saying. We got to be thankful for that. Anyhow, we'll check it out. We'll see how it works, and I'll catch you all later. Zoop out.